trained? It was just, you just had a knack for it.
Yeah, I guess so. And I've worked with a lot of child actors, some who have undergone some training and some like the little boy in Little Man Tate who have never done anything. I mean, he had never even been in a school play. He just was a kid that my casting director found in a cute public school in Manhattan. That was it. It's not necessarily something you can teach. But what you get when you have very young actors is that there's a kind of self-consciousness that they don't have when they're very young. So you catch somebody before they're 9 years old, they don't have the kind of self-consciousness you start getting at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. So yeah, I didn't think I would be an actor. And then I went to college. I thought, oh, well, after college, my mom said after college, you won't be an actor anymore. And then I continued. And then she said, when you turn 40, after you turn 40, that's it. You'll never work again. And I kept waiting. Then I turned 40 and I was like, I better work a lot. And then it kept going.
She kept thinking you weren't, but she had to have seen at some point that, you were definitely branching out and that your business and your intellect and your creativity had become much bigger than acting.
Yeah, I think she was pretty proud of that. I mean, she was proud of directing, and she was very supportive of that. She was really supportive of me going to college, and which at the time I think was really anathema for an actor.
Well, yeah, I mean, it reminded me of it's always sort of this weird big deal when actors go to, I remember when Natalie Portman and Claire Danes, any actress that decides to stop and go to school, it's like, oh my God. What are they doing? Yeah,
and it was such an important step for me.
Yeah. Well, going back though, did you you're talking about Dr. Dolittle or talking about this shift? I mean, you were doing television, all the old television, black and white television, even, right? A bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you knew all these. You knew Rod Serling and Andy Griffith and all these. What's his name? Arnett from Gunsmoke. You worked with all of those guys.
Yeah. Gunsmoke. I did all those. Dramatic opuses like Nanny and the Professor and My Three Sons and, all those 70s,
Fred McMurray
70s shows.
You remember Fred McMurray? Nice guy.
Yeah. Very nice guy. Yeah.
Partridge Family. You did the Partridge Family.
I was on I think I only did one show of the Partridge Family. I went out for the Partridge Family to be to be one of the kids, and I didn't get it. So
in your mind, when you think back on some of these people that you've come across in your life, I mean, are there people that stood out to you as a kid that had more of an impact than others?
I kind of feel, Taxi Driver really changed everything. I think until I did Taxi Driver, and I was 12 years old when I did Taxi Driver, and I think that I didn't really take it all very seriously as much as I loved movies. And I really was. My mom was a big fan of films, and we saw lots of foreign films, and we would see movies over and over and over again. And
you could understand French, so that was good for the foreign films.
So we were really a big movie family, movie fan family. But even though I loved movies, I didn't understand that acting was more than just saying lines until I did Taxi Driver. And that to me was it was just like a mind altering trajectory for me.
And was it the sort of the triangle of you and De Niro and Scorsese?
I think he took the time. I think, De Niro really took the time with me. Scorsese kind of sent the two of us out, or maybe De Niro did it on his own because at that time he was very immersive.
Yeah.
And he'd pick me up every day in New York, and we go to a different diner, and we just keep running the lines, which I didn't really understand why we kept running the lines over and over again. And then by the third time that we did this, he started improvising and going off on all these tangents. And at that point, I think we felt comfortable with each other enough to be able to go back into the text. Right. And there was something about that process that I really understood that it was my fault as an actor that I had not contributed enough. And that there was a whole rich universe of understanding in terms of character that I had just been, blind to.
Really? And you just sort of realized that through the repetition and then through improvising.
Yeah, and then watching the scene take place, watching what Scorsese did, then ultimately really seeing the movie and seeing how those things all dovetailed and how they came together. It was such an inspiring experience. And it probably also coincided with all those amazing movies like Lenny, Straw Dogs, and Midnight Cowboy.
You saw those when you were 12?
Oh yeah, we're a big movie family, and we saw some really serious movies. I mean, my mom she never kept me away from R-rated films, and yeah, we saw some pretty serious movies.
When you were on the set, like in talking, like even in that thing we were talking about earlier, the shift in how movies were made and the shift in Hollywood, did you feel that the set was different? I mean, you've been on 50 sets already.
Yeah, it was different. Every director that you work with is different. So Scorsese was his method was more unusual than I had seen before. He used hundreds of thousands of feet of film, and he did take after take after take after take of the same thing over and over again, same angle.
Wow.
And he had that was his deal, which is just to have an exhaustive amount of film and to comb through it and just look for surprises,
Yeah. So you got an Oscar for that, right?
No, I got nominated for supporting.
What did you win an Oscar for? Oh,
The Accused and Silence of the Lambs. Yeah.
Those are great movies.
Yeah, those are some good films.
I didn't mean it. I hope you didn't think it was rude that I asked you those questions.
No, I don't care.
I mean, well, it's important. But
I don't know how important it is.
Yeah, of course it's important. I mean, I was thinking about that. I was talking to my producer yesterday about The Accused, and I'd seen it. I saw it not too long ago, and I said to him, I think that's one of the best performances of anything ever. Like it's
really,
yeah. Because
I know I don't have any objectivity about that performance.
Why is that?
I kind of felt it was interesting. I felt like a little bit of a failure when I made that movie because there were things that the producers and the director were trying to encourage me to do differently, and I couldn't.
Like what?
Well, like I felt like I really came to understand the character, and I had made these decisions about the character that I just couldn't abandon, even though they asked me to abandon them in order to accomplish some kind of goal that they had.
Like which ones?
Well, I remember, for example, that the producer who I really loved this guy, Stanley Jaffe.
Yeah.
He just was a cool guy, crazy guy, and definitely made a lot of people nuts, but I really liked him.
He was an old timer too, right? Been around a long time.
He was an old timer, yeah. He exerted a lot of power on the set, and he was there every day, and he had a lot of opinions about, everything from how mini my mini skirt should be to how I should smoke.
Right.
And I was a smoker at the time, and he was not happy with how I smoked.
Huh.
And he made me reshoot the same scene twice because of the way I smoked. And I was just like, sorry.
How are you going to?
That's the way it is. And
how are you going to, change something like that and get hung up on it in the middle of that performance? You're going to worry about,
Yeah, there was a lot of intervening at the time because I think people were worried. They were worried that, she's too tough, or, she's too unlikable, and granted, there was a part of me that worried about that too. I just couldn't do it any differently. I just knew her, and that's how she was. So, for example, the courtroom scene, I think we had a lot of problems with the courtroom scene. They had a lot of problems with it in the cut. And I think that Jonathan was hoping or expected for a different kind of performance than the one that I was able to give. So when I finished that movie, I just felt like a bad actor. I just felt like, wow, I'm a bad actor because I couldn't make this character more likable for them,
But that's such a weird kind of Hollywood note. Now that I'm thinking about Stanley Jaffe, he's one of those guys that had a reputation of being sort of a control freak, I think.
Yeah. He's Sherry Lansing's producer at Paramount as well. And he did, lots of big movies. Right. I really like the guy. So I have a real fondness for him. And he was kind of old school. And I think they didn't really understand what they had. And they were worried. I think they were worried that the character would be offensive to people. And I guess
that's interesting.
I sort of internalized that. And I was like, gosh, I wish I could make her less offensive. I'm so sorry. This is what I got. And in the end, I think it was instinct, and I think I was right. And it really taught me that you can't accommodate other people when it's about fear.
It's also it also works for the character. I mean, that to create that insecurity and that overcompensating and the attempting to please everybody, in these moments. I mean, that is part of the brokenness of that character. And And I think that what they probably misunderstood was the vulnerability that you were able to access in the middle of all that, because it wasn't something in movies necessarily.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, this is part of the process. This is why we do what we do. We fight for things that we know are important, even though we don't understand why they're important. And sometimes that challenge, that process of challenging authority and challenging other people, like, that's how movies get made. So I don't have a problem with that. I feel like that's kind of what we do. But it's hard for me because I'm a people-pleasing good girl. Right. Like, I like to take notes and I like to get good grades and I'm not a rebel. And so that movie taught me a lot.
But you've able to manage that particular problem, the people-pleasing part.
I think I have. There's parts of it that I've learned to let go of, and then other parts of it that I'm just damned with.
Well, it's hard. I guess the big challenge there is just making sure you have some boundaries and you don't let yourself get trampled.
Yeah, look, sometimes you make a choice in a character and it's a bad choice. That's really possible. I've made mistakes with a character before, and I can look later and go like, maybe I shouldn't have done that or whatever. But the only thing you can do is operate on instinctually what you know to be true. And you make that, you have to live by that, whether it works for the film or whether it doesn't work for the film. Because if you don't have that, you don't have anything.
But The Accused was a huge movie, because it seemed like, after you went off to college, I don't know a lot of those movies. Do you remember the lot?
Yeah, I made 5 movies while I was in college, and none of them were successful.
None of them.
Yeah.
Did you like any of those movies?
Yeah, I loved Hotel New Hampshire. I thought that was a great movie.
That was it was one of those big casts, right?
Yeah, Hotel New Hampshire. I'm trying to think which are the other ones. That one was bad.
The Blood of Others.
Well, that was. Yeah, I mean, they're all adventures. They just weren't. The movies didn't quite work.
And also, but you had to deal with all that other crap too that you were dealing with. That somehow you managed to. That must have been some lesson in creating personal boundaries. The John Hinckley stuff.
Yeah, it was. It's a weird moment in my life.
But you transcended. It was kind of amazing.
Yes. I mean, I skillfully transcended, right? Because my mom, who had been a publicist, was very clear that she tried to guide me to make sure that I wasn't just going to be known as the person who was involved in, who was involved in the shooting of the president. And attached to it. Yeah. So she said, you want to have a career that's not about this. So you're going to never talk about it. And, you'll do whatever you need to do for the court case. And then that's it. You won't talk about it. What I did is I wrote a piece for Esquire magazine that was sort of a first person piece. And I had an attachment to them because I had worked there as an intern. And that was it. I had written what I had to write about it. I got it out, and there was nothing more to say about it.
And that was policy.
Yeah, it took some enforcement. I'm not sure that you could enforce that these days because, we have a different relationship with the press now. I don't know.
What do you make of that? How do you characterize that different relationship?
It's just a different time. It's a different time. It's a different culture. We didn't have long lenses like that, zoom lenses. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media.
Thank God.
It was just a different time to grow up in. I feel sorry for young actors that are growing up in this time that are trying to navigate becoming humans and being a celebrity at the same time. Like, I don't really know how you do that.
Right, because there's also the pressure to have the role of what you decide your private life, what of it is going to be available and how you're going to handle that. Like, there's no way to avoid it.
Yeah, it's not entirely in your control. I don't know. I mean, it was a different time then. I feel very lucky that I was raised in that time and not this one.
And when did you know that you had succeeded in distancing yourself from that?
From what? From
the Hinckley problem?
I don't know that I did. I think took a lot of enforcement, and I don't know that I did. mean, I don't know. I guess I did the best I could.
Well, I mean, I didn't. It was weird because when I knew I was going to talk to you, and after I watched the new movie, like and then I was just sort of thinking about you,